Poor Charlie's Almanack, The Essential Wit and Wisdom of Charles T. Munger. By Charles T. Munger, Peter D. Kaufman. Today, we're discussing Poor Charlie's Almanack, a compilation of financial giant Charlie Munger's investment philosophies. This book contains 11 speeches over the past 20 years and various articles he has published. As the subtitles suggest, it is indeed a wit and wisdom of Charles T. Munger. Before delving into Munger's core ideas, let's talk about Charlie Munger himself. You might not be familiar with him, but you surely know his partner, Warren Buffett. Some people consider Munger to be Buffett's mentor in some respects. Buffett himself said that the two most influential figures in his investment journey were Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, and Charlie Munger. Munger and Buffett are partners at Berkshire Hathaway, a company with the highest stock price in the world. Born on January 1, 1924, in Omaha, Nebraska, Munger's journey to becoming a financial titan was not smooth. By the age of 30, he had faced financial crises, dropped out of college during the war, and experienced divorce and the loss of a child. Such adversities might crush many people, but Munger was not defeated. Instead, he developed his character and acquired investment wisdom through these hardships. In his investment career, Munger adhered to the traditional American Midwest spirit, working diligently, focusing on doing things well, being sincere, honest, and kind to people, and saving money for future investments. It earned him the trust of many willing to cooperate with him. This trust allowed him to engage in various investment ventures, ultimately earning his first $1 million in real estate. After that, with his keen analysis and thinking, he partnered with Buffett to acquire businesses like Blue Chip Stamps and invested in many quality companies, building his financial empire step by step. People who have interacted with Munger believe his thoughts, methodologies, or thinking models are precious. What unique wisdom does Charlie Munger offer? Let's dive into that. I'll first explain Munger's renowned multiple mental models and then discuss his inverse thinking approach, showing you how to use these methods to build your knowledge system. Finally, we'll focus on Munger's investment strategies. When recommending Poor Charlie's Almanack, many instructors mention Munger's multiple mental models. Munger advocates continuous learning across various disciplines to form a multifaceted framework of thinking models. If you only have one tool, you can only work with that tool. Thus, Munger emphasizes the importance of remembering a series of principles, such as the principle of compounding, the principle of combinations, decision tree theory, and the psychology of misjudgment, among over 100 models. When combined, these models can exert tremendous power. It's like 2, 3, or 4 forces working together in the same direction, often resulting in more than the sum of their parts. The reason for constructing this multiple mental models framework is that, in Munger's view, the universe is a complex whole. All human knowledge attempts to study this complexity, and disciplines are not isolated but interconnected. If we view things through a single lens, we may distort reality to fit our model, leading to foolish and laughable errors. As Munger often quotes, "To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail." Though exaggerated, this joke highlights the limitations of a single-minded approach. When discussing multiple mental models, we often regard it as a methodology. Still, it's fundamentally an attitude towards understanding the world, an inclusive and systematic one, as Munger puts it, a multifaceted perspective. Why is that? Let me explain. Have you noticed that mature individuals rarely express solid opinions but offer explanations from various angles? No strong opinions, just explanations means that when faced with an issue, they seldom make judgmental statements like what the government should do, whether someone's actions are right or wrong, or who is good or bad. They are more interested in whether there are different ways to explain a phenomenon and whether they can look at it from another angle.
It is merely talking without taking action. On the contrary, focusing on others' actions is real empty talk, because you're meddling in someone else's practice. Caring about different explanations of the world will reflect in your practice. In moving from subjective understanding to objective practice, you must notice the deep chasm between the subjective world and the world of practice. The subjective world has many absolute principles, while the objective world requires just the right actions. What does this mean? For instance, when learning to drive, you start with traffic rules and the mechanical principles of cars. These belong to the subjective world and are filled with principles, but once you're in the car, on the road, the usefulness of principles diminishes. Every moment of driving isn't about whether it's better to turn left or right, it's about finding the just right balance, neither left nor right. It is the essence of practice in the objective world. Every specific activity, writing, crafting, playing sports, starting a business, finds this dynamic balance between two conflicting principles. Every educated young person's subjective world is already built and full of principles. For the rest of my life, I will continuously deal with situations where the subjective and objective worlds don't align and find that just right balance.
Isn't honesty supposed to be a principle? But why is it sometimes necessary to lie without it being a moral failing? Isn't the law supposed to pursue justice? Why does it also calculate costs in practice? Isn't it said that hard work and kindness lead to a bright future? Why am I struggling despite my efforts? I've heard so many truths, but I still can't live this life well, describes this phenomenon. This chasm between the subjective world and the objective world is ever present. If you can bridge it, you're reconciling these differences, breaking and rebuilding yourself. It is called growth. The faster you grow, the older you get, the more your mental world can accommodate complex, multifaceted things. It is why Charlie Munger emphasizes multiple mental models in Poor Charlie's Almanack. This idea of multiple perspectives is the glue between the subjective and objective worlds, the safety net preventing us from falling into chasm. At this point, you might understand why we say multiple perspectives is an attitude toward understanding the world. Why do mature individuals have fewer solid opinions and more explanations? Because more angles of explanation help you grow. It's easy and cheap to judge others, especially those engaged in specific practices, as right or wrong. You're just wielding pre-existing principles from your subjective world. Though it feels good, it doesn't help your growth, you're merely pointing fingers at others' practices. To ground this in your practice, maintain an inclusive, multifaceted perspective, letting various concepts and explanations coexist in your mental world, nourishing your practice. Here, Charlie Munger's multiple mental models serve as an excellent tool. Now that we've covered the value of the multiple mental models, let's move on to another key concept introduced by Charlie Munger, inversion thinking. Charlie Munger uses this method to consider where he wants to go before deciding where he doesn't want to go. He calls this inversion thinking, which is essentially reverse thinking. This method, commonly used in mathematical proofs, examines our ability to transfer thinking. While many people might use reverse thinking or the process of elimination during school exams, they may rarely consider applying this approach to real-life situations. Munger strongly advocates for inversion thinking, believing that thinking in reverse often makes problems easier to solve for complex systems and the human brain. He typically figures out what not to do before considering what to do. Similarly, when building a solid knowledge system, it's crucial to identify and avoid poor practices first. A flawed knowledge system usually has three characteristics: lack of depth, narrowness, and disconnection. First, let's talk about the need for more depth. It is straightforward, regardless of how broad a person's knowledge is, they should deeply understand at least one area. If you know a little about everything but need to understand something deeply, connecting phenomena with underlying principles becomes challenging, which weakens your competitive edge in society. Next is narrowness. A narrow knowledge system leads to a limited perspective. Take, for instance, the brand Muji. When managing employees, the company noticed a problem. Sales staff believed product success was due to their sales efforts. In contrast, product developers thought it was due to product quality, dismissing the importance of sales. These views were narrow. Muji implemented a cross-department job rotation policy to encourage a balanced and comprehensive perspective among employees, breaking away from single-strategy problem-solving. Lastly, there's disconnection. In life, we observe phenomena that might be explained by the same theory, or multiple theories could share a common underlying framework. Disconnection means failing to identify these commonalities, leaving knowledge scattered like unorganized clothing. Over time, this increases cognitive load and leads to a disjointed knowledge system. Understanding what constitutes a lousy knowledge system, let's explore what makes a good one. A sound knowledge system resembles the letter T at the macro level and Y at the micro level. Why does it look like a T on a macro level? A sound knowledge system is deep in one specialized area while having a broad, multidisciplinary perspective, resembling the shape of a T. Who exemplifies this? Charlie Munger. Alongside Warren Buffett, Munger created one of the most successful investment records in history, with an average annual compound return of over 20%. How did he achieve this? Munger attributes his success to his early development of a thinking approach he calls multiple mental models, which means understanding critical theories from important disciplines and using them all, not just a few. Most people rely on a single disciplinary model. For example, an economist might try to solve all problems using economic methods, akin to seeing every problem as a nail when you have a hammer. This approach could be more efficient and usually effective, especially in investing. Munger, however, uses a different approach. When evaluating an investment company, he doesn't just superficially assess its financial information. He comprehensively analyzes its internal operations and the overall ecosystem in which it operates. Achieving this requires borrowing and integrating analytical tools and methods from various disciplines like history, psychology, mathematics, engineering, physics, statistics, and economics. Munger believes that nearly every system is influenced by multiple factors, so to understand such a system, you must be proficient in using various mental models from different disciplines. It creates a T-shaped knowledge structure at the macro level. At the micro level, why does it resemble a Y? A Y-shaped knowledge structure means combining multiple disciplines. For example, integrating design with cognitive science is a tremendous Y-shaped knowledge structure. When designing a poster, you should consider what information the audience should prioritize, their emotional reactions, whether it meets their expectations, if it sparks curiosity, and if they can understand what action to take without thinking. A designer who understands human cognitive principles, even basic ones, will create much better work than one who doesn't. Thus, a Y-shaped knowledge structure emphasizes intentionally combining knowledge from at least two disciplines in practical applications. Intentionally is crucial when doing familiar work because most people fall into conventional routines and find it challenging to incorporate knowledge from other fields without deliberate effort. So, that's the second core concept from Poor Charlie's Almanack. In today's society, building your knowledge system is crucial. What is a sound knowledge system, and how do we make it? Using Charlie Munger's inversion thinking, we identified what constitutes a bad knowledge system and, based on his multiple mental models, outlined what a good knowledge system looks like. We concluded that constructing a sound knowledge system involves 3 steps. Finding deep knowledge points. Establishing a multidisciplinary knowledge framework. Combining and cross-applying knowledge. You might wonder, since Munger is an investment guru, what his investment strategies are. In this final part, we'll delve into his investment principles. According to Munger, investment projects fall into 3 categories. Projects worth investing in. Projects not worth investing in. Projects that need to be more challenging to understand. He only invests in worthwhile projects, avoiding the other 2. For example, Munger only invests in the pharmaceutical or high-tech industries if he finds them too complex to understand. So, how does he evaluate whether a project is worth investing in? Munger has 4 criteria. First, the project should be easy to understand, have growth potential, and survive in any market environment. Munger advises investing within your circle of competence. If you need help understanding a project, no matter how well others praise it, don't invest. Never overestimate your abilities or unthinkingly follow the crowd. Second, don't just look at the company's financial statements, consider both internal and external factors. Financial reports might reflect the current value but can't guarantee future profitability. Investment requires ensuring a project will continue to make money in the future. Even if a company's financial reports look good, thoroughly assess other aspects like the founder's character, supplier reliability, and inventory status. Third, evaluate the company's moat. A moat represents industry barriers. A company's most crucial competitive advantage isn't just current profits but the ability to continue making profits in the future. Building industry barriers ensures sustained profitability. If a company lacks obstacles and has a low entry threshold, many competitors will emerge, making it uncertain who will prevail. Thus, the ability to establish industry barriers is a crucial investment criterion. Fourth, investing in reasonably priced large companies is better than in low-priced ordinary ones. Large companies offer higher value and more stable returns when considering potential future investments or equity transfers that could dilute shares and reduce dividends. Munger and Buffett's investments in companies like the Washington Post, Geico, and Coca-Cola exemplify this strategy. If a project meets these criteria, Munger invests significantly. Munger believes all smart investments are value investments. You must assess a company's value and judge whether to hold its stock based on its competitive advantages. Understanding this, we see the depth of Munger and Buffett's value investing. It's not just about buying and holding a stock long-term, it's about abandoning all speculative opportunities and evaluating stocks based on their fundamental value. The most crucial factor, the core and most reliable one, is the stock's intrinsic value. The best way to get what you want is to deserve it. It is one of Munger's most famous sayings. While it might sound like typical motivational talk, it reveals profound insight when combined with his value investing strategy. The former is a guiding principle, and the latter is a technique. Recognizing their commonality tests one's understanding.